If Civil War didn't happen, I think we would have had an epic endgame level fight right in New York again. Sorry, New York. As Thanos with his Infinity Stones, he was able to get up in space because the Guardians of the Galaxy couldn't protect him against the United Avengers. I think it's a pretty close battle. I honestly don't know if the Avengers walk away winning that one. Alright, in this video we're going to have a discussion about one of the MCU's most pivotal events. It's Civil War, and we're going to talk about if this event actually led to Thanos or not. First, we'll go in depth about what we think are the major events that caused Civil War in the first place and how it could have been prevented. Then we'll highlight Steve and Tony's fractured relationship going forward and how it redefined both characters. And then, to top it all off, we'll break down how things would have been different if Civil War never happened. Would Thanos still have won? That's the big question that we're going to be talking about today. I'm Jacoby, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host and good friend, Jake. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. Excited to talk about the MCU with you. I know you're a big fan of the MCU. What do you think of Civil War overall?
Oh, overall, I'd say it's probably my favorite Marvel movie. It just has a lot of depth to the characters, and it has these fights that we normally wouldn't see in other Marvel movies. You get to see the heroes going up against each other, and it has this build up from like two Avengers movies and multiple Captain America and Iron Man movies.
It really, to me, it was an audition tape for the Russo brothers. I mean, they knocked it out of the park. I think with like Winter Soldier that's one of the best standalone MCU films. But then like with Civil War, it proved like, yeah, these guys they can handle an Avengers film easily. So the big question is, are you Team Tony or Team Steve?
I am Team Tony.
Really? That shocks me.
No, I'm a firm believer that people with superpowers should be in check. Or else you get stuff like The Boys.
Exactly. Well, I think I might be Team Steve here, so I think that puts us at our own Civil War. So we'll see what happens as we kind of go into it. So let's start with what I think are like the events that caused Civil War and how they could have been prevented. If we break it down, I think there were kind of three big things that kind of set the stage for Civil War to actually happen. I mean, I think the first one was really in the first Avengers movie, Iron Man going through that wormhole. I mean, when he went up there, he really saw the terrors of the cosmos, about like how scary space was. And I think this really changed Tony's perspective. Like, there's a bigger war coming. Earth cannot be defenseless anymore. And I think this like really redefined Tony's character in both a great way, but in a really sad way, because I think it made him really nervous and paranoid going forward. How do you think the experience of the wormhole kind of changed Tony?
I think it humbled him in a sense, because this is a guy who on Earth is larger than life. He realizes that it's big. The world's bigger than just Earth, and not only is it bigger, but it's stronger than like what he is. And he goes from being this like, oh, I'm the top dog, to being like, I'm not even on the scale anymore by myself.
I think there was a right way and there was a wrong way to take this information, in my opinion. And I think Tony actually took it the wrong way, because the right way would have been, okay, I should start planning more. I should start including more people. And I think if you look at things like Nick Fury starting Sword in SpiderMan Far From Home, I think that could have actually started much earlier. I think if Tony went to Nick Fury and was just like, okay, we need to start a space force, like we need to actually start putting work into unifying Earth's defenses. Instead, he took it all upon himself. He was like, I felt like Tony didn't really trust anybody around him. So what do you think that is? Do you think Tony didn't trust to bring other people in and thought he should take it all himself, or his ego was so big, it's just like, I'm the only one who can stop this?
I definitely think it's a mixture of the two. I feel that Tony's distrust of people isn't from like a bad place, but more of, can they keep up? And so when he's building like the Iron Legion in Iron Man 3, it's kind of like that. Like, we got a glimpse into his mind where he thinks that he's the one who has to stop everything, and he's the only one who has the knowledge and the means to protect Earth. Like, while yes, he takes that information wrong, but I feel like that's that's so true to his character.
It is, and that's what's unfortunate, because I can't fault him for acting exactly in character of how I expect Tony to act. Like, it's like, why did you do that? But I like it because you're Tony Stark, and we all love Tony Stark. But I just mean, like, Thor. If I was Tony after I saw all that space stuff, I would have been like, okay, Thor, let's have a brunch date. Let's go sit down and just tell me about, like, what's out there, you know? Like, tell me about this universe. Do you know anything about this big scary thing? Is this a normal occurrence for planets? Teach me your ways, you 1,500-year-old god. That should have been a priority. And Thor should have left, like, you know, a phone number to call, some contact info. But
like runes
I guess not.
Of some sort that will like shoot a rainbow into the sky to alert him.
Yeah, as Thor Ragnarok actually says, he doesn't have a cell phone, but he does have email. So apparently, but he doesn't own a computer. So that could have been problematic. Maybe Tony tried and just couldn't get a hold of Thor.
It just kept going to the spam folder.
But yeah, exactly. There was a rumor when Iron Man 3 came out, like the end credit scene the post credit scene was gonna be like Tony going up into space and meeting someone like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then, how awesome is that? Then Tony goes up into the cosmic side of things. Well, actually, that's actually a horrible example, because if Tony met the Guardians, like the first people he meets, if he goes up into space, then that's Tony's gonna turn right back around. He's gonna be like, these people are, I don't want to know anything more about space.
Absolutely, he'd meet Star-Lord and be like, I don't know how this hick from Missouri got up here.
And I see this raccoon.
I think I'm fine.
Yeah, that stole my armor while I slept. Instead, we got him talking through his paranoia with Bruce Banner instead. And I guess Bruce really was a horrible psychiatrist, because maybe if Bruce would have helped him out a little more with his issues, then he would have been like, oh, okay, I shouldn't be so paranoid and scared. I should ask for help. So again, I guess I blame Bruce. Because Iron Man 3, he didn't listen to Tony's problems. And that's fact. You can take that as canon. Because sure, maybe Hulk not listening to Tony at the end of Iron Man 3, like that wasn't the cause of Civil War. But really, I think Hulk not being there was actually a big factor that led to Civil War. And I think that's something that's not talked about enough. I mean, because at the end of Age of Ultron, Hulk and Bruce were feeling pretty bad about, you know, causing mass destruction. So Hulk, obviously, and Bruce Banner, too, I keep referring to them as one, but they're really two separate people. Hulk and Bruce Banner were not there during that time. And I think if he was there, things would have been drastically different. What is the relationship, do you think, between Stark and Bruce Banner?
I believe personally that they have kind of this like brotherly relationship. Like, they both have this respect for each other, as well as their like an understanding of how each other thinks, like such as the Ultron like scene, like where they work together to build Ultron, and then they come together again to build Vision. Right. And so, like, I think that they have this mutual understanding, and so to say what Banner's role in the Sokovia Accords would have been truly depends on how he would have reacted to the Accords themselves. Like, if he was for them, I believe that he would have just furthered Tony like down that path. But if he was against them, then there's a chance that he could have talked him down.
I think you can think of it in two ways, because like one, the obvious way is that like, yeah, Hulk and Bruce fear his power. Like, you know, he should have control. Like, you know, he should be regulated in order to go do these things, because if not, then mass destruction could have happened. But then you also have to think Bruce Banner as a character has always been one to seemingly not trust the government. He was running from S.H.I.E.L.D. for so long. In fact, he was running from the very man who was trying to put the Sokovia Accords in place in the first place, Thunderbolt Ross. So would Hulk really have been like, yeah, I support what this guy's thinking, even though I spent my whole life running from him? I mean, I don't know which way that would go.
I mean, that's definitely interesting. The element of Thunderbolt Ross does throw kind of a curveball into where Banner would end up making his alliance. But I'm a firm believer he does understand that, at least at this point in the MCU, he understands that the Hulk is an issue and the Hulk is a problem. And like they have the Hulk Buster set up. They have all these things set up to stop the Hulk that I think Banner would have sided with the Sokovia Accords. whether he liked Thunderbolt Ross or not.
Yeah, it'd be like something like, I hate this guy. This guy's made my life, horrible. But it's like, I kind of like the cut of his jib. He's speaking a lot of sense here. We've talked a lot about Tony. Let's talk about the other side of Civil War and, the guy whose name is in the movie. Captain America hides Bucky's biggest secret. I mean, Cap suspected that Bucky killed Tony's parents, and I think what's kind of fun, I don't know if you've heard this one before, but it's been hinted that Cap wasn't able to lift Thor's hammer in Age of Ultron just because of that reason, because that was the one thing that Steve was holding on to that made him less worthy. And that's why he can only move it just like a little bit. And as soon as he was able to tell that secret to Tony, that's what allowed him to fully be worthy. Do you buy into that theory? Because I know there's two camps of it. There's like the theory that believes that he couldn't lift it because he was keeping the secret, and there's the other one that's he actually could lift it the entire time because Steve is, Captain America, but he didn't do it because that would make Thor feel bad.
Okay, I'm throwing that second theory out the window. That second theory makes no sense because they even go into it at the end of it about how Vision was able to carry it and they weren't. So that second theory is nonsense. First theory,
you don't think Captain America could have been like, look at this guy. He looks so sad because his second movie wasn't very good, and I got to give him a win, and be like, I don't want to take this away from him.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, okay, noted.
No. But the first theory that you mentioned, I love that idea because a big part of Thor's of being worthy is to see yourself as worthy. So if Steve is holding on to this dark secret, he is holding himself back, and he is thinking himself unworthy. And I love that idea. It's fantastic.
What if Steve went to Tony beforehand and was just like, all right, Tony, you're going to freak out. But my best friend, Bucky, he killed your parents, and now let's hunt him down together. You know what? Hearing that out loud, that's probably not the best way to go about it, but I think there's a bit more finesse that you could work that Steve could have used. What do you think? Do you think Steve was right to hold on to this for so long, knowing how Tony would react?
I think he's wrong. Communication is key in any relationship, and I personally think there was plenty of time between Winter Soldier and Civil War for Tony and Steve to discuss what happened
over a brunch date.
Exactly. Everything over brunch. It's revealed to him right there that the man who killed his parents is right there, and a man that you thought you could trust knew the entire time, and now is standing between you and the guy who killed your parents. And so, yeah, obviously Tony was going to go ham. Yeah, and ham he did go. But let's talk about after Civil War. Let's talk about Tony and Steve's relationship and what this fracture did for both characters. I think Captain America after Civil War was at a really interesting place because it's like a place that we kind of root for, right? Because I think the movie kind of paints him as kind of the right one, I think, right? Or what do you think? How do you think Steve kind of was changed after Civil War? I think it changed him for the better, first of all. Because to me, Captain America is a Boy Scout, and Boy Scouts are boring. So
right.
if you give him an edge, he becomes more interesting. And his edge is that he thought he was right, and his moral code was right. And the movie did frame him as being correct, but the accords still get passed. And so he's this criminal who is basically wanted for the sole purpose of having a moral compass that just aimed a different direction. And so I liked him a lot more throughout the trilogy, but Civil War made him one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I think it made him more of a hero. I think Civil War is the peak of his personality, taking him listening to his moral code, him acting upon it, and him doing what he believes is right.
Yeah. So if he ended up on the up and up, did Tony also end up on the up and up? Because he was for more government control, because he really felt guilty about his actions because he had been left unchecked for way too long. But then he turns around and recruits a 15-year-old kid from Queens to come fight across the world in Germany to fight in this big battle just because he's like, oh yeah, this guy's strong. I want him on my team. Isn't that counterintuitive to the entire Sokovia Accords?
No, I disagree. I believe that is fully in the Sokovia Accords, or at least I would have believed that until Far From Home. Okay, I'm going to be honest. all the way up until Far From Home, I was a firm believer that the U.S. government knew who Spider-Man was, like, because of the Sokovia Accords. It would make sense that Tony would go grab this kid who is super strong, like super agile, and kind of get him into like government control early on, and like keep an eye on him. But then Far From Home kind of showed that like no one knew who he was, and then I was like, oh, well, don't I have egg on my face?
Do you think Infinity War would have still happened if Civil War didn't happen?
Absolutely not. I'm a firm believer that Infinity War showcases that a team of two broken Avengers cannot defeat Thanos. If
Civil War didn't happen and the Avengers would still on Earth, then Thanos probably would have still gotten the Power Stone, and the Space Stone, right?
Yeah.
And the Reality Stone. He would have had 3, because I don't think they would have stopped him. The Guardians of the Galaxy probably wouldn't have stopped him on in nowhere, right? From getting so then Thanos would have had 3, or do you think there were other factors that could have stopped him beforehand?
Oh no, I think he would have definitely gotten he would have gotten 4, because he'd have the Soul Stone, Reality Stone, Power Stone, and Space Stone. So
against New York, which has the Time Stone and the Mind Stone. I don't know. I think those odds are still pretty stacked against the Avengers there.
What, he can make some of them look like butterflies? Doctor Strange will just turn back time
and be like, nope. I'm just gonna turn Thanos into a baby right now and drive him back. But I think that it would have at least made it one movie, because I imagine an epic fight. If Civil War didn't happen, I think we would have had an epic Endgame level fight right in New York again. Sorry, New York. As Thanos with his Infinity Stones, he was able to get up in space because the Guardians of the Galaxy couldn't protect him, against the United Avengers. I think it's a pretty close battle. I honestly don't know if the Avengers walk away winning that one.
I mean,
but there we go.
I mean, granted, they wouldn't have like the full force that they did have in Endgame. Like, they just have their like standard team, but they almost beat like Thanos with like their with half of their standard teams apiece. Like on Titan, like Tony, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and a bunch of like space hillbillies.
Yep.
that are the Guardians of the Galaxy. Almost beat them.
We've been bagging a lot on the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I like their movie, and I like them a lot. It's just that they're not Avenger level like heroes.
Yeah, they shouldn't be stopping Thanos.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't be on them to save the universe, even though they've done it twice.
They go off and they have adventures with Howard the Duck.
Yes, exactly. You're right. I think overall the Avengers would have pulled out a victory, especially because, you know, they're together, they're united, and that's what's important at the end of the day, is that the Avengers act as one team. They are of the same mindset of be like, we got to protect Earth no matter what. We don't have to worry about petty infighting between us, and we can come together and make an awesome plan. And I think that was the biggest result out of Civil War, right? It's just them not being on the same page, and then that caused Thanos to do his thing and win. If Civil War did not happen, I do agree that the Avengers would have won, and that's so sad. But it gave us an epic movie, right? Civil War was a great turning point of the MCU.
Absolutely. I feel like it kind of set up this darker tone that we were going to experience in the next few MCU movies, minus Spider-Man.
Minus Spider-Man. He'll still stay fun.
Yeah, Spider-Man had like a fun time, like going to high school prom, but then Thor lost Asgard, and
his father,
yeah,
and his brother, and his best friend, and his hammer, technically his sister, and then like half of his people. But he's funny now.
Yeah, but he's funny now. He's the Big Lebowski now.
He's the big Thorbowski. All right, I think that about wraps up our conversation about Civil War today. Do you have any final thoughts about Civil War?
I feel like even though the Avengers movies are like great and everything, and like super important to the MCU like plotline, I feel like Civil War is the most important movie out of all the MCU movies to like create this this cohesive story.
I'll go even a less deep way that I just like seeing our heroes fight each other. I just like seeing, you know, good guy versus good guy, because it's interesting because you don't know who's going to win. Do you think Civil War could ever happen again, or do you think the Avengers would be like, all right, you know what, we're not fighting again, we're going to work through our issues?
It's a possibility, because the two people that kind of pushed Civil War are no longer in the MCU. So it's a possibility, but I'm not sure with what characters.
Who would be the two most diametrically opposed foes that we could see.
Okay.
I'd imagine like Captain Marvel's pretty powerful, and I see she has a way of protecting the universe. But who would be? I don't even know. Captain Marvel versus Spider-Man.
I actually was going to say Spider-Man, I think, would be on one end of the, like, Civil War.
Sure, on paper, it's like it probably wouldn't go very well. But imagine Captain Marvel focuses on the universe, right? She's a universe protector, and Peter Parker is, a hero from New York. He keeps his feet on the ground, and he's imagine those two ideals clashing against each other in some way, shape, or form about Earth's role in greater galactic things. I think you could have an interesting story there.
Oh, absolutely. And, like, it's not unheard of. Not unheard of. It's not unlikely that Peter couldn't keep toe-to-toe with her, because
that's true.
He is incredibly strong, and he does have Stark tech now, so
he's basically unstoppable. All right, you heard it here first, folks. Civil War 2 is definitely happening down the line. Captain Marvel versus Spider-Man. Thank you all very much for joining us in our Civil War discussion. Hope you liked it, and yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Jake, for joining me, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.